Hey, welcome to My Week After the Show. One thing that we've all seen this week is the story out of Texas. Sandra Bland, a woman who was pulled over for a traffic infraction and ended up I guess, would you even say a conflict with the police officer? She was arrested. She hung herself while she was in jail.
That's what we think happened.
That's what they think, but then now they're looking at it as a possible, they're investigating her death. But I want to back up because a lot of us have now seen the video of this traffic stop, and it really brings into play a bunch of things here. It brings into play the role of dash cam video in monitoring police interaction with the community, but it also brings up this abuse of authority, or I guess that feeling that police have all of a sudden with people that don't comply exactly with them, that it escalated very, very quickly, that was the biggest concern for me. And I'm going to start with you, Stephen.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you watch that video, the police officer is agitated because she's not docile, because she's not somehow subservient to him. And it's like, well, what obligation does she have to do that? He pulled her over, didn't explain why. And then, asks her to put out her cigarette in her car, which is also not his right to do. And again, I wrote a column for Thursday about the fact that there is a racial context to this that you just can't ignore. A white police officer essentially responding to a black woman because she is not docile enough to his authority. You can't separate that from the weight of our racial history. That video invokes all of those things and all of that history very, very cleanly, and that is part of the problem. There is a bigger problem with authority and the authority that police officers think they have over people, but there is a racial element and a tinge to it that is increasingly not just disturbing but frightening.
And every time we talk about policing issues and talking about overreach of power, we're always talking about body cameras and dash cam video and how that will help solve the problem in this, Nolan. And I'm not quite sure that is really a part of it.
Well, I don't think it's going to change behavior. At least it documents behavior, and that's the case here. I think clearly it doesn't change behavior because we've seen now 2 or 3 times cops who had to know they were on camera doing really offensive, egregious things. So it doesn't, you wonder what the heck. Did you forget that camera was rolling or what? So, I mean, if we're looking at it as a behavioral change, it doesn't work. You got a bully cop, you got a bully cop. But at least it documents, and so it's no longer the citizen's word against the cop's word. I've often, I've been stopped many times on traffic violations. Some encounters with the officer are fine. Usually, almost every case, it's been something it was a legitimate stop.
Are you a lead foot, Nolan?
No, I'm not a lead foot. I just don't pay a whole lot of attention. And but some of the encounters have been perfectly fine, and you have a polite interaction. You take your ticket, you say, bah, and drive off. Other times have been very bullying, very where you been, where you going, and that's actually none of your business where I'm driving from or where I'm driving to. All their business is.
What did I do?
What I didn't, I turned on the red that you weren't supposed to turn on the red, whatever. And, that's their business. And I've never understood this aggressive line of questioning when you get pulled over. And it's happened to me, as I said, a number of times where it's very confrontational from the beginning. For God's sakes, it's a traffic offense. And we all make traffic offenses, right. And sometimes we get caught, and I would suggest even the officers make traffic offenses. And, to treat a traffic offense like a capital crime, I've never understood the interrogation.
So you see this and you say, why did it escalate the way that it escalated?
Well, I mean, it was clear that the officer was agitated. I mean, he was agitated from the time, at least on the cam, from the time that they start interacting, that he was annoyed, again, with her demeanor, which seemed to be not docile enough for him for whatever reason. And again, I think that is generally a problem with the authority that officers think they have, and the need to assert that authority. I mean, you have all the power in that situation if you're the officer. You also have a gun, a lethal weapon on you. at some point, the obligation on you is to be the bigger person. Maybe she was rude, maybe she was agitated, but why not say, all right, well,
Go back to your car and write the darn ticket.
Just write
It was
the ticket.
A signal.
That's
for
right.
God's sake.
Right.
But can you not screen for that sort of psychological tendency?
that's the
Can you
question.
not
See, then
train
that's the
for
question.
that?
What part-
You have to wonder with all this going on.
What is part of the police training, and what do you have to go through,
it's
and
also,
how do they find that?
The
or
other thing that
document
was disturbing here is that this was a state trooper. This was not a local officer. This was somebody who, I mean, the screening and the training for state officers tends to be better and more rigorous than it is for some local officers. And so, again, I think we have a more systemic problem that needs to be dealt with in terms of how are you training people, and how are you telling them they need to interact with the people, even that they suspect of quote unquote wrongdoing. I mean, the wrongdoing here was really minor, but it's an infraction, and she probably should have gotten a ticket for it. But to escalate it to this point, where she spends 3 days in jails and then ends up dead, it's almost a cartoonish kind of series of consequences. I mean, it really is just awful.
And his supervisor should have known as soon as he come in that
What is this?
Yeah, why is she in custody?
Why is she in the jail?
she should have been back in her car and on the road and within minutes. And I don't understand the breakdown throughout.
And I think we're just going to be finding out more information as the days go on. That's My Week After the Show. Thanks for joining us.